gang, gang. Hey, nothing but love and respect. You might have some cool fans, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called. Never left a man behind, we move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family.
Me and my fans, we don't care what anybody say. Middle fingers to whoever in the way, man. Me and my fans, we gon' be together till the grave. It's a gang till forever and a day, man. Me and my fans, we don't even trip in the hate. We got all the fuck in our brains, man. Me and my fans,
we the hangover gang. Gang, 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 gang.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey everyone, meteorologist Tuttle back with you again. It is about 9:35 here. Thanks for joining me. You've come to the right place. We're going to talk about the winter storm that is brewing and heading on into the state here for tonight and tomorrow and lingering on into Thursday before finally leaving us. And what will it leave behind? That is $1 million question. Everybody wants to know what is going to be in my backyard and how much am I going to see? So we're going to try to answer those very important questions here for you for tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining me. The viewership has gone through the roof the last few days since we started talking about this, which is good. It means awareness is happening. And you get a little meteorology lessons 101. You even get to watch me forecast on the fly when new data comes in. So if you ever kind of wanted to know, in a meteorologist, what do they look at? How they decide what the forecast is. If you've been watching me for a while, you already know the answer. And you can go and tell everybody, I know exactly how to forecast the weather because AT showed me how. So it's fun, it's educational, and keeps you entertained. I see all the stars out there on Facebook. Thank you very much. Also, I've seen some super chats on YouTube, so thank you there as well. Lots of likes and hearts going on. Please like and share this video with your friends and family. Just post it on your wall as we speak. Just hit the share button while you're watching any point in time during this broadcast. I'll see you guys on YouTube checking in. So good to see you as always all over the state, from Tulsa to here to Oklahoma City, and then even out of the state. I know a lot of people watching from other parts of the country interested either in our weather or their weather, and that does include down to Dallas-Fort Worth. If you're having trouble getting notifications when I do go live, make sure you tap the bell on Facebook and Twitter. You can also set your settings there. On Facebook, it's an AI-generated notification, so it may not always tell you. If that's the case, click the link I just posted in the comments section. You can opt in and get a direct message from me through your instant messenger. So with all that done and out of the way, let's get on to it, shall we? Well, if you haven't noticed, we had some humidity return today. We had some cloud cover build in, and we've had some sprinkles develop. So we've had a change in our weather. The cold front has moved in to the Oklahoma City metro area. If we take a look here at my thermometer, we've cooled down now to 43 degrees. So it's not a rapid drop yet, but that cooler air, what we call, ooze on in, and it will continue to get colder as we go through the night and into the day tomorrow. So believe it or not, this is actually warm. We won't see this temperature that you're seeing on the screen until Sunday afternoon. So that's how cold it's going to be over the next few days. All right, so big picture across the nation. I mean, we are talking a large winter storm, which is here in the pink shading, goes all the way up to the Great Lakes, covers the upper Midwest, back down here into central Texas, and even parts out here to New Mexico and Colorado. Why? A lot of ice and a lot of snow. And that is thanks to this situation here in the atmosphere. We have a large trough that's kind of anchored out here to the southwestern part of the country. That's piping in all this Pacific moisture along with these upper level disturbances that ride along with it. They just kind of come in time to time, and when they do, they trigger these showers, in some cases thunderstorms, which yes, you can have thunder snow, thunder sleet, all that kind of stuff. Probably the main probability of that would be probably down in this area, and then maybe kind of east, maybe parts of Arkansas. So that could be the potential for some of that activity. I don't expect that here, though, in Oklahoma. But needless to say, that's the situation with a lot of moisture around the region. And it has led to already some heavy snow warnings from the Storm Prediction Center. The Weather Service continue to go on. So we talked about the cold front has moved in. So this is what it looks like on the Oklahoma mesonet. So this is the leading edge of the blue line is where the cold air continues to kind of come on in. Now you do notice out here we are below freezing officially in northwest Oklahoma and into the panhandle. We're just about to get there in this area here of the state, and these numbers will continue to cool down overnight. Now, the big cold air with it is all the way up into Canada, where temperatures up here into the negative teens. So it's a very significant Arctic air mass that is plowing southward into the country. And it has changed temperatures quite a bit, right around minus 30 to minus 40 degree temperature change in this area of the coldest of the colds. This would be the center of the high right here. And again, the cold front continues to progress quickly down to the south and also off to the east. So we're going to get a little taste of winter back around Oklahoma. If we do look at the current radar view, along with the temperatures overlaid, you do see some light showers from central Oklahoma up into northeastern Oklahoma. This is not freezing yet. This is some very light rainfall. But once you head across the border into Kansas, yes, temperatures here are at or below freezing. So where you see the red, that is the radar changing over from a non-frozen type to a frozen type, meaning freezing rain. And that's continuing as we speak over the last couple of hours. It continues to develop. And you can see once you get far enough away, so basically north and west of Wichita, it does turn into all snow for the rest of northern and western Kansas. So on this kind of a leading edge down here across the southern counties where you have that freezing rain that is developing. And yes, this will work its way in Oklahoma. If you were to extend out east from there toward Kansas City, you can see that freezing rain extends all the way up to Missouri. Points from there, there's that heavy snow warning up there just north of Columbia, and that fine line of freezing rain along with it. So it's a transition of rain to freezing rain to sleet, and then eventually to snow. And we'll be looking at this map off and on here, obviously for tomorrow, because we're going to be tracking this precipitation that does fall in our neck of the woods. We also will get back to this here in a minute. But first, let's get on with the rest of the information I want to show you. Now, the key is timing as far as when you get the different precipitation types. Speaking of which, let me just show you this. So again, we're talking about the difference. If you haven't watched my lives before, we're talking about the difference between snow, sleet, and freezing rain. These are the three different precipitation types we'll be seeing as far as winter weather goes here across Oklahoma. The freezing rain is what happens when it freezes on contact and it thickens up on the trees and the power lines and it causes power issues. Sleet does not cause power issues, but it will help to ice those roads up. So again, anytime you get sleet or freezing rain, the roads go south. And then snow, well, of course, the roads do go south here as well. Speaking of which, I'll show you an example of that. So Leslie Vaughn said this to me today. She goes, I wonder if Oklahoma City is going to remember not too distant years here in Oklahoma where we had just a mess. So yes, we don't drive too well in the snow. This is a Hefner. But yeah, you can see just what a few inches will do for us here in Oklahoma. So get ready. This is going to happen again come Thursday when people try to get out of this stuff when they do try to brave the elements. All right, so anyway, we're going to be back here to the rest of the maps. Let me go back here to this one. So what's going to happen here in Oklahoma City, for example, the red line is a precipitation probability for freezing rain. The pink line is for sleet. The time, as we go from morning to afternoon, so basically lunchtime, what happens is the models are saying that the atmosphere continues to get cold enough to transition any light freezing drizzle or freezing rain that we'll see in the morning, transfer over into sleet for the afternoon, and then you notice as blue lines start to go up, the probability, that's snow. So as we then transition from the afternoon into the evening, we swap. We go from sleet to snow. So the trend in the last few days has been to increase the timing at which we get to snow and lessen the amount of overall ice here in central and northeast Oklahoma, which is a great bit of news. Unfortunately, what that does is it shoves all that nasty stuff down south into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, North Texas, Southeast Oklahoma. So they we'll be getting what we sometimes get as a nasty ice storm. All right, we'll have more on that in a second. Here's a look at the timing of the precipitation. What we look at is in the mid levels of the atmosphere, the bright color equals lift. So we can time the window and when things will develop. So obviously right now, we're using a lot of lift to moisten up the atmosphere to get those showers going. So even though it's not heavy, that is what the transition is happening right now. Now you can see this lift is going through midnight, overnight tonight, into daybreak tomorrow, 6 a.m. Now you do see a lot of those bright colors, they slack off, right? And there's just a little bit here. That's been the forecast for a while, so that has not changed anything. Wednesday is a very light precipitation event in the first half of the day. So don't expect widespread Armageddon. However, black ice, a couple of hundredths as we talked about, is all it takes to shut down the road. So do expect that in the morning. As far as significant accumulations go, that happens as we get into the afternoon and evening, as you will see here. So that's, let's see, morning hours. Here's midday. You start to see more of the colors starting to show up here. By lunchtime, start to show up across northeastern Oklahoma and northwest. And then focus your attention down here. This is the big upper level disturbance that's going to kick out in this broad southwest flow by the middle of the afternoon, 3 o'clock. Look how much lift is starting to show up here across Oklahoma down to North Texas. This is when things get really fun and exciting around here across the state. This will generate very heavy freezing rain, sleet, and snow as that moves through during the afternoon and evening hours, especially down here into North Texas, as they just get to the freezing point. It is going to be a timing thing. The coldest air will arrive about freezing just as the lift is coming overhead. A total nightmare for Dallas-Fort Worth points northward into southeast Oklahoma. As we head into the midnight hours, that lift moves off into northeast Oklahoma, northeast Oklahoma through northeast Texas, and it kind of calms down a little bit overnight for Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So most of the energy is going to be spent with precipitation on this first round. We will get a round 2, and you see the lift starting to show up here on the map. It's not nearly as exciting, not as strong, not as widespread. It's just kind of subtle. It's enough to produce light snow, but from the earlier runs, it had produced most of our snow the second run because the earlier runs had a lot of sleet for us. Well, now it's flipped. Now it's saying since the sleet window and the freezing rain window is much shorter, we get most of our snow the first round, and the second round is kind of lame. It doesn't do much for us compared to what we're going to get from the first. Together, the two will add up, though. So there's Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. We still have some lingering light snow flurries through Thursday night into Friday morning, but then it's pretty much all gone, and the storm system is over with. And what we get is what we get at that point in time. I was looking for the case of the old dry slot you like to hear a lot that can really hose a forecast and make it completely dry. It's not going to happen. This, for example, this is a dry slot way out here to our east. But if you focus here on Oklahoma and North Texas, that's all green and blue. That's saturation as we go through this event. Through the day on Wednesday, there's a little bit of dry air that does come into southwestern Oklahoma briefly. There's about 26%. So that's the beginning stage of what's trying to be a dry slot moving into central Oklahoma by Wednesday evening. However, that kind of fills in because we get most of our lift at that time, so it kind of overcomes that and ends up just cranking out the precip anyway. And what's left of that kind of moves into northwest Oklahoma and fizzles. So really, there's not a huge spigot to turn the system off. It's just plenty of moisture around, plenty of lift, therefore plenty of precipitation. As we head into Thursday, let's see, there's morning hours, there's Thursday midday, and then there's Thursday afternoon. Now this is a dry slot. This is where your humidity's dropped 7%. Systems, out of here. I mean, the heavy stuff is over. This is the snow growth layers. This shuts down the heavy precipitation producing. You might have some lingering flurries at the lower levels, but the big, what's causing the big chunk of precipitation, gets cut off at that point in time. All right, so that's kind of how that works out. All right, next thing we want to talk about is the timing and the precipitation and the type. So here we go. This is, of course, current, and we're going to step this at a time. I'm going to do a broad picture first, and then we'll zoom in Oklahoma so I can try to cover as many people as possible. But, of course, we already got the mixture of winter precip up into Kansas right now. As we head into the evening hours for the rest of tonight, you can see the rain continues to develop and build here across central and eastern Oklahoma. But you see these little purple indications and some red showing up. That's the freezing rain, freezing drizzle, and some sleet mixed in here at the midnight hour. Again, that's not too far from now, across northern Oklahoma as that cold air deepens, and that will shift into central Oklahoma before daybreak, by probably 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, just so we start to hit right around freezing. Then that wave, the big wave, moves off into Tulsa area early morning, so the roads will probably be more ice covered in Tulsa than they will be in Oklahoma City. But we're only talking about a few hundredths in Tulsa, and only talking about 100th or 200th here in Oklahoma City at most. That, believe it or not, the 1/100th is all you need to coat the roads in ice. So you got to be very, very careful in the morning if you must get out. I'll show you a road map you can look at in a minute to kind of look at before you head out the door. Meanwhile, as we head into the mid-morning here, the radar is very light precipitation across Oklahoma, like we talked about. It, the Bing lift hasn't happened yet. However, you look up here into Kansas and Colorado and Texas Panhandle, still snowing to beat the band up there. And then here's the influence of that next big wave starting to show up with new precipitation breaking out in western Texas by the morning hours. All right, let's go into the lunchtime hour. All right, so lunchtime, you start to see the snow expand out here in the west, and you start to see the freezing rain and sleet build into western Texas. Once we head into the 3 o'clock hour, that continues to just expand and intensify out in this region, and then we start to get our heavy round of sleet on the southeast side of Oklahoma City, Norman, Tinker, Shawnee, back out toward Pauls Valley, back out toward maybe Tuttle, Chickasha, and then north and west of that line. So it's kind of like that I-44 corridor again. North and west of that, it looks to be almost all snow. You might have a little sleet mixed in at the beginning, but it should quickly transition over to all snow, the north and west sides of the metro. And that snow continues to develop and move on into the Tulsa area by late afternoon. And then you can see how that expands into North Texas as we go through time. So here's 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, snowing to beat the band here and across much of Oklahoma along the I-44 corridor. Once you get south, though, it does transition over to sleet there in purple, and then freezing rain here in far southern and southeastern Oklahoma as well as this starts to fill in. And then you can see North Texas. This is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex right here, and they are dealing with ice at that point in time after 6 o'clock. And the models put the brakes on the cold air right at the Metroplex. I mean, they're saying the call is too close to call, but you got to err on the side of caution. And right now, most of the data I've seen, it looks like it's going to be anywhere from probably about a half inch of ice down there for freezing rain, and then a little sleet on top of that. That's devastating. That's ice hockey for real. All right, so we continue into let's see, there's 3 zoos. So about 9 p.m., that freezing rain continues down here in North Texas, southeastern Oklahoma. We still get the snow here across the body of the state. Let's go ahead and zip on to midnight. Still the same story, umpteenth verse. Now let's move on into Thursday morning. Let's go here. There's the early morning hours, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning right there. You know what's still happening down in Dallas? Freezing rain, with a transition finally over to sleet. Again, you get 10 hours of freezing rain, you're in trouble. I mean, a half inch of ice accumulation is an easy call with that situation. You better hope that the atmosphere is a little colder than the models think and it changes over to sleet. Otherwise, I don't want to see what's going to happen down there. Otherwise, from there to the southeastern parts of the state, that continues. Now, you do see things quiet down across Oklahoma on Thursday morning. Remember that. Then we have that second wave that comes in, and watch how that snow expands. It does move in to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and points north and north and northwest Texas, southern Oklahoma, and that's kind of where the heavier amounts are concentrated within this model. But in general, it's going to be snowing again as this wave moves overhead, so don't focus so much on just that one spot. There will be light snow that moves through the state overall during the day on Thursday. And then that will continue into Thursday evening. You can see things start to wind down in North Texas, but look down south. I mean, this freezing stuff goes all the way down to Bryan College Station and Austin, and even to the north end of San Antonio. I mean, it's a big event for ice down there into Texas. All right, so there's Thursday evening, and we still have some snow, but it's finally ending here across eastern Oklahoma. So Thursday night, the snow is over. The system's finally moving out. Even Texas finally gets kind of an end to the nonsense, and things get quiet for Friday. And then, like I said, we're kind of left with whatever we have for each of us individually. Now, as far as the ice is concerned, I'm just going to show you a few of the model outputs just to kind of show you what the general trend has been, the take home. And it has been the same since we kind of started talking about this, with the exception of it kind of keep nudging us a little more southeast time. So that takes away the significant ice accumulation here for northeast to central Oklahoma and pushes it into southeast Oklahoma. I mean, this model here is going over. It's stupid. It's off the chart, so it's not going to be right. But that's how excited it is about the ice down here, with over an inch here in North Texas along the Red River. The NAM isn't as excited about that, but still, it's got anywhere from 0.5 to 0.7 here in eastern Oklahoma, maybe 0.8 Arkansas. So that's a significant ice storm. As we head into the NAM, the non-high-res version, same idea. It points up to an inch of ice down here. Now some of that will be sleet contaminated, but still. And then a couple of other models, same idea. So the look is the same. That's where in other words, if you want to know where the power outage problems are going to be, it's down here into this part of Oklahoma. And of course, anywhere where you have these ice accumulations, this is all power outage problems. Now, what about here? What about here? With the light stuff we have, it should not be power line issue. Now, it will be windy. I'll show you the wind gusts here in a second. We're going to have just things that happen normally, like, maybe demand on the electric grid. And so there's going to be some other things that may just cause a few sporadic power outages. But as far as anything that's going to last long term, that should be confined down there into southeastern Oklahoma. Snowfall with this event as well. Again, this is just the trend I want to show you here. A couple of different models, and you can see they're kind of all the same, which is we're going to focus the snow from northwest Oklahoma, little wrap around here in Dallas-Fort Worth, so even though you guys do get hit with the ice, you will get at least an inch or two of snow on top of it. And then we continue that up here to northwest Arkansas, and then of course Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico all gets it. Now the question, of course, is how does all this average out with totals here in our area? First thing I want to show you, this is the take home, as far, again, driving home the take home for the ice accumulations for Wednesday here in central, northern, northeastern Oklahoma. If you notice, these amounts aren't excessive, maybe at most about 1/10 of an inch of ice. So that's what I'm saying. The power outage issues, they may be sporadic, not necessarily maybe according to this, but the winds and some other things, because that's the saving grace that we're not getting a lot. However, what you see on this map is enough to, again, cause significant travel condition problems. And then down here in southern and southeastern Oklahoma, the models start to indicate some amounts there well over in excess of 1/2 inch. I'll tell you what, let me do this. Yeah, let's just do this one. So this is the model blend for Snowfall. And I actually like this. I really can't find a reason to argue against it for right now. But it's got anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of snow here in central Oklahoma, even down toward Lawton, northwestern Texas, down even close to 5 inches down there. Tulsa's got about 6 inches, and there's probably pockets in here that's going to be higher than that. It may be 7, maybe 8, of course, out here in the Panhandle. So this is going to be a really good snow event for the bulk of the state. And this is the kind of snow, yes, it's not going to be dry, so you can play in it, you can build a snowman, you can have snow fights. Travel's going to be a problem, obviously. This snow continues all the way down to Dallas and North Texas, again, after they've had the ice. So I want to show you that output. Let me do it. What else do I want to show you? Let's skip that. Let's do this. All right, we know the cold air is moving in, so let's just take a look at how that plays out. So we'll go ahead and zip on into, there's 6 o'clock in the morning. So the fine line, in other words, where it's freezing, runs right around Muskogee to just about Lawton. So that means any precipitation falling from the sky, which is going to be basically drizzle in this point in time, is going to be freezing along this line and points north. And that's before you even head out the door in the morning, which, you know what, let me take a sidestep from this to show you. If you go to my website, aarontutterweather.com, and you come up here to the weather data tab, come down here to where it says, well, there's a couple things you want to look at. Oklahoma power outages for one, but the other one's Oklahoma road conditions. So you go to this map here, it'll show you the soil temperatures. If you scroll down, it'll show you the snow route here for Oklahoma City. Just click the map. And then if you look into the state, these will actually color code and start to close. And it'll show you which roads are closed. And there'll be pictures you can click on, video, for example. And even like here across the Oklahoma transportation input, you can click on these individual cameras as well. And then you can see whether or not traffic is moving, if it's covered in ice. This is the current look up here into northern Oklahoma, so you can see the streets are wet. Then you can probably expand this, it looks like. There you go, so you can get a better view that way. So check that out. It's on my website, aarontuttle.weather.com. You can get to it through my weather app, which is called AT's Weather to Go, or you can just type it on your computer. All right, so back to where I was. I want to make sure you guys have that information because I get that question a lot. How are the roads? Well, this is the best way to find out like that. Okay, so let's see. There's 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's go to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, noon. What happens? We're going wrong way with temperatures, right? All right, let's just keep going. Oops, jump too far ahead. Let's go to 7 p.m. All right, so 7 p.m. we're in the 20s. If you look down here to North Texas, that freezing line is dipping down into the Dallas-Fort Worth area on the north side of town, and that is when things start to go downhill for those folks. Now, we're going to be in the 20s across the state for Wednesday night. We'll be dipping into the teens by the time we head into Thursday morning. So there's 16 degrees in Enid, 17 in Bartlesville, 18 in Tulsa. The Panhandle will be out there in the single digits. Thursday itself is going to be a rough day because it's still going to be windy and temperatures will not rebound that much. The models like to give us mid-20s. You know what? I'm crying foul on that one. I'm going, not going to happen. So I'm going probably lower 20s at the most. We notice a difference? Probably not. But anyway, so we'll cool things down even more by the time we head to Friday morning. We are now into the single digits. These are actual air temperatures and then some teens still. Where you have the most snow is where you will get the coldest. So you can see how the model favors this little pink outline kind of in this region. And this is where it's predicting, the heaviest snow, of course, and really way out here. But just kind of give you an idea how that can play with temperatures. Remember I mentioned the winds? So I'm just going to play the animation button because look at it. 20, 30, maybe gust of 40. This is all the way from Wednesday into Friday morning. There you go. So there's Friday morning, 9 a.m., and they finally die down. So with those kind of winds, things can happen. All right, let's go to the wind chill when you factor in those temperatures with the wind, and this is why it's dangerous to be outdoors. There's in the morning hours, it's going to feel like it's into the teens when you get out the door, if you are getting out the door. If you're outdoors at all, it'll be feeling like it's into the teens tomorrow. It'll be a very unpleasant day, and that's a risk of hypothermia, frostbite, etc. So make sure you bundle up, wear lots of layers. Feels like it's in the single digits Wednesday evening, and then yes, it's going to feel like below zero once we get into Thursday morning. In the purple shading across the state, elsewhere into the single digits. Thursday afternoon, like I said, with the wind still howling out there, the snow on the ground, still some light snow moving by. We've got wind chill values into the teens at most, lower teens, because remember, I think the temperatures will be a little cooler than what they're thinking. And then we'll, of course, cool back down below zero again for Friday morning. Now, we also showed you the winter storm impacts from the National Weather Service, their experimental product. And I mentioned to you how they would likely be increasing these categories. They had a moderate before, they would go to major and extreme. Sure enough, they do have major and extreme. Major for the ice storm down here in North Texas and southeast Oklahoma. And they have extreme for blowing snow, so reducing visibilities, high snow amounts up here in northwest Oklahoma. And then if you also notice, this continues east of us in Arkansas, so central, northeastern Arkansas, Missouri, on up toward the Great Lakes through Indiana. It is just a mess of a system. This will be a combination of everything, from heavy snow to ice. You can actually break this down a little bit, so you can kind of see how they favor which category for which deal. So this will be for snow amount right here I'm looking at. All right, so let me click on this. Let's zoom this up so you can see. So here's a title up here at the top. So this is snow amount, so you can see why the criteria is triggered for that one. Ice accumulations, they favor highly North Texas, southeast Oklahoma, eastern Arkansas, and western Tennessee and Kentucky. Let's see, blowing snow, that's where we favored northwest Oklahoma and some of those other areas up to the north. Now, no what they call a ground blizzard. They really don't have much on that. So it's mainly for the ice and the snow and the blowing snow. Snow load, which is going to be referring to how many feet you may get. So that's a lot of snow they're expecting up here into parts of Illinois, Springfield. So that's a mess up there for heavy snow that they'll have to deal with. But the bottom line is all these impacts mean the same, which is extensive property damage likely, and or life-saving actions needed, and will result in major disruptions to daily life. So that's what the categories represent. They pretty much all say the same. It's just what magnitude is that. Take home for you is, if you're in this mess and you get stuck, you better have stuff in your car to eat, drink, to stay warm with, because you're going to need it. All right, let's see. I'm going to show you something else a little bit later for those that want to hang back for a little meteorology lesson. We'll do that. But in the meantime, let's go recap for those of you folks that joined late and you missed kind of everything. The Weather Service did actually a pretty good job at breaking this stuff out. So for tonight, so in the yellow stages, we've got the mixture of freezing, light freezing rain, freezing drizzle, sleet, and then some snow. During the day on Wednesday, that shifts to the south. So now we have all freezing rain down here in the southern and southeastern Oklahoma. Otherwise, we get a wintry mix still here with a little bit of freezing drizzle during the first part of Wednesday, changing over to a little freezing sleet, and then the snow by the late afternoon and early evening hours. So it's all snow for Wednesday night, and then still freezing rain though down south and some sleet mixed in. And then on Thursday, still all snow for the body of the state with the exception of the southeast where they got some sleet. And the snow amounts that they're talking about, pretty good. We looked at a snow map a moment ago. I'd go a little higher down here in parts of southwest Oklahoma, but it's not too far. And then the ice accumulations, I don't like this one for southeast, but it's okay here for central. I'll show you Tulsa's here in a second. Of course, they highlight the dangerous wind chill values below zero. Tulsa kind of breaks this down as well for their area, so their winter storm. They're talking about snow up to about 8 inches, as we talked about earlier. Let's see here. They've got the sleet up to an inch possible, and they've got half an inch of ice down here in southeast Oklahoma, south of Muskogee, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, down toward McAllister and Hugo, where power outages will be a significant problem. So that's kind of how that breaks down. For their amounts, they went a little higher, 6 to 8 inches in Tulsa, and I'm fine with that. Also down toward Muskogee. Of course, lighter snow amounts because they're going to have more sleet and freezing rain down here in southeast Oklahoma, where they do paint that nasty purple shading, which is over a half inch of ice just south of McAllister. So bad stuff down here. All right, so that's kind of how that's the quick and dirty. Temperature-wise, we'll be in the teens all day on Thursday. I doubt we'll get much beyond the low 20s for any particular person, except for far southeast Oklahoma. And then on Friday, dangerously cold in the morning. We will not hit 37 on Saturday. We might hit 32, probably just 30 for a high. And then, yes, this still looks good, and the rest of this looks good, and it's just going to be a slow warm-up as we go through time. One final note here. You need to walk like a penguin. So, some good advice here because you are bound to slip and fall. So, how do you at least minimize hurting yourself? So, when things get cold and icy and it looks dicey, this is what you do. So, you point your toes out. All right, you point them out, and you don't lock up your knees, believe it or not. Or you got to keep them a little loose. You would think a penguin though would be pretty locked up. Keep your hands outside your pockets, so you're gonna need them out. Take short steps, don't take long strides, take it slow. So here's a look down here at the bottom. This is a guy that's slipping and falling on his rear end, and he's using his hand to brace himself. This would be a and this would be an So what he's doing, he's walking upright. All right, so I know we're supposed to walk upright, right? Well, not when it comes to winter weather. So don't do this, don't do this. Instead, he's leaning forward, all right? So he's got that forward gait, and that's going to help to balance himself a little bit better on the ice, more like a penguin would for the center of gravity. And you don't want to use your hand to break your fall. I know it's going to be it's going to be a common reaction because that's everybody does that. You want to somehow just, I don't know, maybe like think of an ice skater. You know, you want to brace your fall like this and then land on like a good, that way you're land on your shoulder down to the side of your arm, so you're taking in that whole momentum, that impact here for all the physics involved, and you're spreading it out over a large area. You're not jarring any, metacarpal, bone structures. So that's one way to fall on your side, and of course you've got the rest of your side too. So that's one way to do it. Of course, if you're going to fall on your back, make sure you tuck your neck in so you don't hit the back of your head. So those are a couple things. You got to, think like that when you're going down like that. So that was something I want to bring to your attention. Okay, so let me think here. What else? I did want to show you. Okay, so this will be a little weather. All right, a little classroom is in session. Okay, so we're looking at a forecast sounding, and I'm going to explain to you why we're going to kind of only have drizzle for most of tomorrow, and before we get the main show later. And we'll look at a vertical profile of the atmosphere. So first thing we look at is the sounding. Now, the sounding represents the cold air that comes in. So this is the depth of the cold air, of the Arctic air right here. This is up to around 1 kilometer. So, we're talking probably about 2,700 feet, something like that, in this area, up to 3,000 feet. So this is where the cold air resides. And it has to get really thick, so it has to get tall in this diagram plot. And that will change the state over from the rain to freezing rain to sleet and the snow. As that layer gets deeper and thicker, and then as this warmer nose right here gets less and less, as we go through time, you see the profile saturates, and then this is actually the 0 degree Celsius line, or freezing, in the atmosphere as you go up with height. So as long as this profile is west of this, it's all snow. All right, so let's take a look at how that looks like on something that may make more sense to you. So I'm going to zoom this in here. All right, so what we have here is this little purple area is a snow growth layer zone. This is where all of our good snow develops. It is juxtaposed with humidity. Everything in green is humidity, so it's saturated in this layer. That's good, right? And then here at the beginning, we have some of these little red circles, which is called omega, which is lift in the atmosphere. Now, I will caution you that everything on this map, and this is going to be backwards to you, but it runs from right to left with time. So T for time goes left on this map. So this is now, all right? So this is as this front comes in, and this is the cold front, so this is what's going to generate a lot of lift right here. This is why there's a lot of omega with this front. This is why we got the clouds that are really thick out there. We've got the light rain developing. So that's provided the lift just along the front itself. So what happens is, as we get into tomorrow, I'm going to clean this part off, and I'm going to focus here. We get into 6 a.m., all right? Now, 6 a.m., in this little region, you see blue contours right here. Blue is sinking air. It's subsidence. It's the opposite of lift. So it's not what you want to generate precipitation. It's almost kind of like a drying out mechanism. All right, so between 6 a.m. and about 2 p.m., that's what we have to work with. Here over central Oklahoma, for example, Oklahoma City, I just picked a spot on the map. So that means we cannot get any heavy significant precipitation while this is occurring. But what you can still get down here at the bottom is where we are saturated, and so you just kind of get just this constant mist or drizzle. So we can get that to happen trapped in the Arctic boundary layer. So that's why that's the most we can get for a good chunk of Wednesday. Now what happens is in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, all this lift takes over. You see these red contours? They just go nuts. All right, so they're just cranking out precipitation. So it's right over the snow growth layer. It's going nuts. It's producing some crazy precipitation rates, and they're falling down. So that overcomes any of this other nonsense going on before. Now, the difference here between these two time frames is that we start to transition cold enough to get out of that profile for freezing rain or sleet into the profile for all snow. So excellent timing. So if you want the most minimum amount of ice and the most maximum amount of snow, this is what you want, and this is what's happening. So as we do that, then we start cranking out the snow, which shows up here in blue. In this particular model, it shows here 4.5 inches of snow just from the, we'll call it the 4 o'clock hour through midnight, roughly. So that's a 8-hour window to get snow, a pretty good, decent snowfall rate. So getting 4.5, 5 inches shouldn't be a problem at all in that scenario. So this is just here over the Oklahoma City region. What it also shows is the amount of precipitation before then. I don't know if you can even see this. It's only in the hundreds. So it's just a few hundreds, both in freezing rain and also for any potential sleet accumulation. So that keeps us safe from a massive or significant ice storm. Now, if I were to look at Tulsa, kind of give you an idea, we just looked at Oklahoma City metro region. Tulsa, the same idea, although they have quite a bit more lift than we do here in central Oklahoma. So they have a little bit better output here in the morning. They've got up to around a tenth to maybe 2/10 of an inch of ice accumulations, which we did show in that map earlier, and that's going to help to cause a little bit more problems on the roads, but hopefully not so much power outages. You typically need about 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation to really start causing those power outages, but I guess there could be a few with about 2/10 if that happens in some of those areas with those winds blowing around. But there's a lot more lift. You see a lot more omega, these little red lines in this region, even though there's some lack of moisture here. So they might have a little bit of chance of seeing some more heavier pockets of drizzle or light freezing rain during the rest of the Wednesday, whereas here in Oklahoma City we have to wait for that big round to move in. But they also get that big round as well when it comes to the snow, so their amounts will end up, same thing like Oklahoma City. Here's a quick 6 inches of snow for the late afternoon through the overnight period into Thursday morning. Now, again, in both of these cities, the model is not excited at all for that second round at all. I mean, it's like, where'd it go? Now, it's still there. It's still broad, weak lifts. You're still going to get some light snow flurries to light dusting or whatever, maybe an inch or so. But you're not going to get several inches out of this secondary round. Most of it's going to be in round one, as round two is just gone poo-poo, which is too bad. I like, if we're going to do this, do it right. I mean, I'm going to say bring it. But that's me, because I'm a meteorologist. All right, now we're going to Dallas. What's Dallas going to be doing? All right, well, let's take a look here. Same idea. This is going to be Wednesday in the evening hours. Their profile says freezing rain, freezing rain, freezing rain, freezing rain, and then sleet by 5 a.m. Thursday. Sleet, 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 and then snow by 10 a.m. Thursday. Oh, sleet, snow, kind of teetering back and forth, and then snow, but it starts to dry out, which is why they don't get a whole lot of snow. So let's take a look and see how they look. All right, so we are now this is the 6 p.m. time frame right here for Dallas. Let me use a different color. So that's right here. All right, now what do you see here? All right, this is your meteorologist. I'm going to let you do it. You're going to do the forecast. I'm going to let you do the forecast. What do you see? Tell me what you see. Do you see a lot of green on the map for moisture? You do? Okay, good. Do you see that green in the snow growth layer? You do. All right. So you're good so far. All right. Now, big question is, do you see massive amounts of omega? Those are those red contour lines. And if you said, oh, heck yeah, then you would be correct, because this is off the chart, bullseye, nuts, crazy. And that extends all the way up through the upper atmosphere down to the lower atmosphere. So that is a heavy producing event signal. So question is now is, what are the temperatures, right? Well, remember, we're going to be, let's see, with this, that was really bad. Will that do that here? It's flashing on me. So I don't know how it's going to look on your end. But it's got 0 degrees Celsius right about here at that 7 o'clock hour where it's just coming down to beat the band. So in other words, this should be at this point freezing rain, and it does show that here in red on the screen. Again, we're down here to Dallas-Fort Worth, and it's showing as much as ignore this blue, that's an error. So if you take this red to the other red, that's 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain. Again, that is horrible. And that can happen. That does happen. We had that here in Oklahoma last October. Not this past one, but the prior one, a year ago. But if you look here, they do get a little sleet on top of that in the orange. And that's because that column thickened up a little bit more. So that's about 1/4 inch of sleet on top of 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain. So together, that's an inch of ice overall. And then at the end, like I said, they'll get a little dusting of snow. This model doesn't have much. Matter of fact, it doesn't even measure it. But you should be able to get an inch or two when it's all said and done. But for the most part, again, assuming things do not change from this point forward, and the models have the best grasp that they will ever get on the depth of the winter, of the Arctic air mass, and the speed, the placement of everything, this is the outcome for Dallas. And parts of North Texas, all right, so that's just for them to the north, and then in the southeastern Oklahoma. So that's how all that works. All right. That was a lot. But I hope that was, like I said, educational. I hope you kind of got something out of it. But you can see then how a meteorologist would use all the data we looked at. And then you're keeping tabs of everything you see. And you're putting that picture together in your mind. You're basically building the story. And you're looking at all these little intricate details to fine tune. And you can see, after you just watched me here for the last 30 minutes, how complicated this whole thing is. And then not only just over one point, but over all the points from, here to Tulsa to McAllister down to Dallas, whatever. You have to analyze all these little different areas. So you can see how you can spend an entire day looking at a one run of model data before the next run comes back in and you do it all over again. So that's kind of how you build a forecast, and that's kind of how you break it down. So there you go. So if you've ever wondered how that was done, you now know. I will take a quick look, since it's after 10 o'clock, to see if the American model has come in. Just curious to see what it has done or shown. So hang on 2 seconds. Let me go to that. I don't expect anything different from it at this point in the game. I just wanted to see the data because that's what I do. All right, so it's got the sleet, a little bit of light freezing rain here overnight in the central northeast Oklahoma. With the snow up there, of course, where it's supposed to be. And then there's that wave building in there at lunchtime, coming in to southern Oklahoma and northwest Texas by mid-afternoon. And here in the central, comes through Dallas by the, probably about 7 or 8 o'clock. It's got it through Dallas for the freezing rain. And the sleet in southern Oklahoma and northeast toward Fort Smith. The heavy snow elsewhere just goes nuts, as all the rest of the models have always been doing, and it's been doing. Again, freezing rain all the way down south of San Antonio. We start to wrap up that snow by Wednesday night, and then Thursday morning, that secondary round kind of moves through North Texas, still southeast Oklahoma, and then we have that light snow that moves overhead on Thursday, and that kind of dwindles by Friday morning, and it's out of here. So it hasn't changed. That this is the exact same prognosis we've been talking about, and it's just the details will be slightly different in placement of that kind of stuff. But I did want to see what it had to show, and then we'll take a look at what its totals were for the ice and the snow. I don't expect anything significant to change, but you never know. Let's do this. All right, so what did it do? Well, it kept a ½ inch of ice down here in North Texas, which, by the way, extends south and west along I-35. I kind of stopped the focus earlier on North Texas, but it's all the way down to the hill country. And then southeast Oklahoma, it did drop off amounts a little bit to, okay, there's ½ an inch, so made me a liar. So there you go. There's still ½ an inch in southeast Oklahoma down here. It will not pick up the stuff. It's too light for central northeast. You can kind of see its tries with these little light echoes. So don't worry about that. We're talking about the focus for the heavier stuff, and that continues for southern Arkansas and out to the east from there. So this look has been the same for many days, so that did not change. Now the snow, this is going to be for fun. I don't expect anything too crazy. It does get a little excited for Dallas. It gives them, instead of 1 to 2 inches, it bumps up to 3 on the west side of town. Of course, a lot of snow out here in the northwestern Texas. And for central Oklahoma, there's a little spot of 7, 6, otherwise surrounded by 5. Same thing for northeast. This would be on the heavier side of the potential for central Oklahoma. So 4 to 6 is about where it resides with the other ones. So I actually did a pretty good job. Of course, I would hope that it would when it's the very last chance it gets to take a look at something that's just starting, it's underway. But the models are not perfect, so they will be. They will have their flaws. All right, that was a lot. Many of you hung in there with me. This is the extended cut. So hopefully that was good for you. I'm going to look at some of the comments here before we sign off. So you guys were chatting like crazy on YouTube. There's way too many in here for me to scan. Let me just look at the last few. If you have not yet, download my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free. It's Apple, Google Play. You can track the radar with that. Make sure you check out my website, aarontutterweather.com. Oh, I see some comments going on here which will remind me I did not mention this. I meant to do it when we talked about the walk like a penguin. Actually, no, I did mean that, or did mention it. So, food, water, thermal blankets for your car. Obviously, we don't have snow tires down here, or chains. But if you did, you could put those on or take them with you. Just know that if roads are bad, you're going to be out on the side of the road for quite a while waiting for a tow truck or a good Samaritan to come on by. So if you're going to put yourself in that position, at least make sure you're protected from the elements. Make sure your car's got a full tank of gas, the coolant's topped off, your windshield wipers are topped off, your phone's charged up. And I believe the old saying is, and this was the old days, and it may not work anymore, but it was, if you're there for a long period of time, you stop your car, then you start it again a little later. You stop it, then you start again a little later, so you can save your gas, and then you can get warm just about the time you get hypothermia, and then you warm yourself up. But that's, if you're going to be in there for a long period of time. Hopefully you're not in that situation, but that was something that I remember from a long time ago. I've never been in that situation, thank goodness. Okay, so let me go through some of the Facebook comments. Now, I will say this. So, black ice in the morning for central, northeast Oklahoma areas. I don't see much west, or southwest right now in the data. I just don't see it. Doesn't mean something surprise couldn't happen, but most of the activity has been focused central and northeast. And this is something that can happen, just so you know. If the light freezing drizzle, light precipitation kind of comes to an end over any particular area for any length of time, with the winds blowing and it being daylight, so you'll have some solar radiation, any ice on the roads can evaporate, and then the roads can improve temporarily. So it could easily be a time where there's a few hours, or maybe a half hour, of total Armageddon, right? Where there's this much on the road and everybody's crashing into one another. And then all of a sudden all that kind of clears out and it evaporates and the roads are mostly dry. And then everything's fine again until the next big wave moves in later in the afternoon. So if that happens, don't come and yell at me and say you stink. Just be thankful that there was a little period of a window where the roads improved, even though the weather has not. So because nothing's going to change in the forecast. You do know there's a break as far as anything heavy until the afternoon, but anything light is what's going to cause the hidden danger of you not paying attention and coming across some black ice. So just be very careful. Use my weather or the website for the road conditions, AaronTuttleWeather.com. All right, boy, lots of stars tonight. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I see that. My son is coming from Arkansas back to Oklahoma City tomorrow evening. How will this affect his drive? Mary wants to know. Not good. Let's see. Let's not tell my 8-year-old or he will become a dinosaur. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, I see. You guys are having a conversation there. Gotcha. Let's see. What is the chance of thunder snow? I don't think we're going to see thunder snow here in Oklahoma City or even central Oklahoma. I don't think so, just because even though we did have some good omega, it wasn't excessive. And it wasn't in all layers of the atmosphere. So I don't foresee it here. But there will be some thunder, probably sleet. South, maybe southern Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma, and some thunder, freezing rain, possibly into north Texas, northeast Texas. That's where you get those really high amounts. So that's possible. And then, of course, from there, east, Arkansas points north and east from there along that big mess. For the roads, okay, so here's the deal. So what happens on Wednesday with the roads? If we get a temporary break, in the precip and things evaporate for that really light glazing, great. But again, by Wednesday night, it's all back, forget about it. And then it's Thursday, forget about it. And then the question is, what about Friday? I think by Friday afternoon, you should be able to get out on some of the roads. The treated ones, the main ones, it'll still be slippery. You'll still have to drive on ice and snow, but I think you should be able to get out fine. And then Saturday, obviously in the weekend, I think is much more likely, much better for the rest of us. So a few of us will probably get out on Friday because you have to. I get it. And some of you, of course, will have to get out on Thursday and Wednesday. When you're talking about driving on that stuff, it's funny because most of the cars now, I don't say most, but a large percentage of them have all-wheel drive. So that's very helpful. Front-wheel drive also helpful if there's still a few of those out there, some old ones. Rear-wheel drive is a nightmare, so avoid those. And then when you want to slow down on ice and stuff, most of us will have analog brakes and ABS system, but you still don't want to hit that hard because you're going to lose control. So the best thing is to do is obviously just to slow down before you get to the part to where it gets crazy. The other is you can downshift because you shouldn't be driving that fast anyway, right? So you could downshift from third to second to first to try to slow you down. Is it going to ruin your engine? No, not unless you're driving 80 miles an hour. Which I don't know why you would do that. But if you're going slow enough already to begin with, then dropping that speed down will get you to slow down without losing control on the ice. And so that should be able to help you out. But since we're probably going to be dealing with a lot more snow in this particular event here for central northeast Oklahoma, I think you're probably more likely just on driving on snow principles. And for that, height is your friend, obviously. Four-wheel drive is your friend. And remind you that just because you may have a good vehicle to get around in, your friend next to you may not. And so when this happens, what are you going to do about it? So just keep this little picture in mind. I'm just saying, it's not all gravy and roses out there on a winter storm when you get 4 to 6 inches of snow and a lot of these roads are untreated, et cetera, et cetera. So just remember this picture when you go out. I wish I could remember all the details back on this storm system for this one here, but that's good enough for me to go, I'll be all right. I'll just stay at the house. I have no desire to end up in that mess. So anyway, so thanks Leslie for sending that to me. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. We're going to sign off here tonight, but I will do a live lunchtime update again tomorrow around probably 11:45 again. We will see how we're faring with any of the light freezing rain or drizzle that happened in the morning, and then if there's still any around. So we'll look at radar, etc. And then we will track the next wave for the timing of that. So just in case we do have some decent weather to get around in, how long will that window last? Is it still going to move in by, say, 3 o'clock, for example, here in Oklahoma City? We'll narrow down the exact hour for that as it approaches from the southwest. And I can tell you I've seen some pictures of some stores. And if you're thinking about going in there and getting your last minute items, good luck. So it was a zoo today, as rightfully happens every time we get a winter storm around here. But I'm sure somewhere, some stores got something. Probably a neighborhood, Walmart, not the big ones. They get cleaned out first. But yeah, you can try those out if you have to get anything tomorrow. If I were you, again, check the roads first, but do it before 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Assuming everything's still, again, fine prior to that. And then, because after that, you don't want to deal with it. All right. Appreciate the stars tonight, the support, love, the passion, the questions, the everything. So I'm only here because of you. So let's keep it going. All right, guys, have a good night of sleep, and I will see you tomorrow for lunch. And we'll do another live tomorrow night also about the same time, right around 9:30. And we'll see how the storm system is behaving. Okay, guys, take care and be safe. See ya.